Pacu eyes, yes, exactly. It's fascinating, and I was searching for it because I heard some Pacu from Robert Anton Wilson, and I stumbled across this really interesting article that went into that about basically that you can read the health of a person by seeing if they have two whites, so to speak, on each side of your iris,
right.
Or if you have. Yes, continue.
I have a little clip from the article right here I wrote down. It was basically said when a baby is born, the iris or colored part of the eye is usually beautifully balanced between the upper and lower eyelids. It touches the upper and lower lids so that no white or sclera shows above or below. And the sclera is visible only to the left and right, and that indicates balance and a healthy nervous system. But what do we see on the floating eye above the pyramid on the dollar bill? We see the iris floating to the top with the white or sclera showing at the bottom. So that's apparently a representation of illness, deception, and an unbalanced distribution of power. So,
isn't that a spot on? Isn't it?
It's perfect, and it's also a time cycle. If you look at I have another website up here. If you look at the actual pyramid scheme, or the dollar bill, the famous Illuminati Great Seal, basically, it's constructed with 13 rows of stone representing 13 eras of 13 years between the date when the Bavarian Illuminati was founded in 1776, and I think it goes to 2010. And it's basically altogether it's indicated that there's 18 eras of 13 years ending in the year 2010. So the very top of the capstone ends in 2010. And that's equivalent to 234 years. And then the statement on the bill says, or the wording is E pluribus unum, which means for many one, which a lot of people have said that's the New World Order, the one world government. And, the United States has always been one nation comprised of many cultures and nationalities. Thus, 1 combined with 2, 3, 4 years is basically 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a sequence. So you could actually read the pyramid in stages of 13 years from 1776 to 2010 as that, and it adds up to 234, as I mentioned. And the ending date of 2010 is significant when you consider that, some ancient civilizations have predicted the year 2011 and 2012 as the end times, including the Mayans.
Yeah.
And 1111 is a sign of change or transcendence. 2011 may be written as 2/11, meaning 2 11s, which again represents a doorway between two states of being or existences. And 1111 is sometimes reversed as a sign of chaos because in change there's chaos until a new order or pattern begins to emerge and solidify. So this suggests that basically the year 2010 is the last and final year of a grand era or cycle, and 2011 is a year of chaos and reorganization. 2012 would be the completion of this event, and I guess 2013 would be the first year of the fifth world, or the new aeon that the Mayans spoke frequently about.
Yes.
And wrote about. Basically the golden Aquarius age, at which time the new phoenix will be born in a way, or in some symbolic way.
Well, exactly, and I mean, I think that all these things kind of brought together is what makes, again, this picture so interesting. I've been, following the sun, for instance, very much in regards to the activity of the sun, the solar flares, CMEs, and we mentioned it so many times in this program, but it's worth mentioning that the peak of the next cycle is around 2011, 2012, and this could, I mean, we'll see what happens, of course, but it feels just, so much right now like the quiet before the storm, the calm before the storm, because there has been zero basically activity on the sun, and I had an article up about that Tell that to the people of Galveston, Texas. It's the quiet before the storm. There you go.
They're about to get slammed by a hurricane, unfortunately. And I wonder why these hurricanes always conveniently choose to annihilate the areas where we have our oil factories and our oil distribution centers. It seems like they always hit there, and then gas prices are just they shoot up like exponentially, and we've had Tesla, free technology, the knowledge of it for, probably over 100 years, at least, a ridiculously long time in the past. We've had alternate means of transportation than fossil fuels. So we have these like storms. A lot of people say that HARP is a facility that's actually able to create, hurricanes or create storm systems. and these things are just slamming into the coastlines where there's mass quantities of oil, almost to give them an excuse to gouge the prices considerably and to enslave people financially. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a good possibility. Again, we know that there's different types of technologies. They could be easily be steering things in one direction or the other. And I even find it interesting that, let's see here, Katrina, was that 2004 or 2005? Do you remember, Steve?
That's 2005.
2005, okay, and then we had this really quiet period, right? For 3 years, and now
basically nothing.
Exactly nothing. And this season is incredible.
Exactly. I was just in Orlando recently, and we had the I can't even remember the name of the hurricane that hit us there, but it was quite weak. But the season overall has been extremely active. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen the rest of the year. And as I mentioned before, the concept of who is watching the watchers, our alleged masters, are the people that have put these puppet strings on our backs without our permission, basically.
Yeah.
And the film The Watchmen is coming out. I mentioned that I might talk about this to you before. For people that don't know, The Watchmen was a 12-issue sort of Zodiac Wheel limited run comic created by a man named Alan Moore.
Yes.
And it's set in an alternate reality that closely mirrors the contemporary world of the 1980s, of course, with a few differences. I think Nixon still in president. The Watergate event never happened. So you have the Watergate phenomenon as well, which I think is a very strong symbolic event, because you have the water and the gate. So you have the Aquarius Stargate event tied around that period. And I guess the primary difference is the existence of superheroes. However, the primary focus in this story is examining the human flaws of its hero characters rather than sort of hoisting them up on a pedestal. And it's a theme that's been coming up a lot in my research, which is basically, like I said, who is watching the watchers? Or in other words, we know there are factions of people in the world that are indeed acting as sort of godlike keepers of humanity without our consent, without being appointed by anyone, hiding in the shadows of obscurity, or constantly pulling a new mask out of the closet so as to keep their identities concealed. And this thought form has also appeared in the recent Will Smith film Hancock, where he plays an immortal or Nephilim type being with amnesia of his origins. And again, society basically bastardizes him for his careless way he chooses to keep order or abuse his power, and he eventually willfully is put in prison. So you have the sort of absurd idea of a god incarcerated or trapped in a world that he governs. And you have Charlize Theron, who plays his magnetic other, or basically a soulmate, and has followed him through the branches of time, all the while being drawn to him like a magnet or opposing polarity. And every time they're in the same proximity, they start to become mortal, and they basically are able to die. And Theron resonates with genetic memory, Akashic records, and cloning, because she played in Aeon Flux. So it's synchronistically appealing to see someone basically portray a watcher, an angelic presence, as well as someone who's been genetically engineered as a type of messiah figure, or basically savior of the world. There's another very interesting film out that Jake and I have been talking a lot about concerning the Godhead with amnesia, and that's going to be the title of my upcoming video, the 4th installment of the series that I did with him. And the movie's called The Nines. Have you heard about this or seen it?
I have actually seen it, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yeah.
So Ryan Reynolds plays a godlike being that has created several micro-universes, and it's explained to him that God is basically a 10, and humans are a 7, and that he is a 9. So therefore he can destroy the world with a single thought, or create the world, or create multiple worlds. And he exists in many different forms, and none of which are real in any kind of tangible sense. And he even masquerades in an incarnation as a computer game programmer. So he's basically a god masquerading as human, creating virtual worlds within the microcosm itself, which as you can see is an endless fractal loop. It's a very, very amazing symbolism in that film. I think it's a wonderful story. And there's a very similar storyline to the film The 13th Floor, or Lawnmower Man. In the 13th Floor, the creator of a virtual reality machine basically discovers he's actually a part of an even higher vibrational virtual world above him, and so on and so forth into infinity, basically. And the Lawnmower Man, the character Job Smith, he goes, he's the one that goes from retard to Rembrandt, basically, and actually states that nothing he's learning or has learned is anything new. He's simply reclaiming the knowledge that ancient conjurers and alchemists had discovered eons ago. Yeah. And he's reclaiming the knowledge through virtual reality. So.
Yes. I want to spend a little bit more time on the Lawnmower Man. I actually, when I saw this clip that you're talking about now in one of your latest videos, I went back and rewatched it again, and I must say it's incredible. I mean, I thought that it would be more kind of silly in a way when I watched it many years ago. It was like, as I remember, it was like, oh, it's really bad acting, really nothing to it. It's quite awful. But then I rewatched it, and there's so many esoteric, occult, symbolic messages. It's religious symbolism, of course, rampant in it. It's like it's incredible. Did you watch the entire movie, Steve?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, that's one of. You'd be hard pressed to find a movie that I haven't seen, Henrik. And I do watch them for pleasure as well. It's just yes. I constantly have my eye open for synchronistically relevant events while I'm watching them. But
yeah.
It is curious once you go back and sort of watch movies that you enjoyed in your childhood and find all of these things in there, these little gems that correspond with the research that you're doing in the now. And
yes.
I think that's what's wonderful. Like I think I watched The Fisher King when I was a little boy, or at least a young man, and I watched it again last night actually, and I just found a plethora of amazing sync events.
Yep.
There's a moment where Jeff Bridges looks at the clock and it's exactly 9:11 on the clock, and then immediately it pans to sort of this building with a 33 on it, and there's just very strange coincidences like that. I think one of the best ones, or the best 9/11 stinks that Jake and I have found, is the one in Trading Places with Eddie Murphy, where he actually walks into the World Trade Center's towers with Dan Aykroyd. And they're just trading stocks, and it's like a frantic pace, and Eddie Murphy looks up at the clock, and sure enough, it's 9/11, like flush. And he's inside the World Trade Center towers. So this stuff, it's stuff like that when you and the new, I don't know, when did the original Matrix come out? I don't even know how many years ago.
99, I think it was.
I know. Okay, so 1999, and a month ago or so, or 2 months ago, all of a sudden comes forward that Neo's passport expires 2001 September 11th. So
yeah.
How in the world, considering the message of that movie and the amazing metaphor to what we are experiencing in reality right now, how in the world did that get in there in 1999? I mean, how?
Yeah, exactly. No, what I want to do is I want to call up the freaking folks who planned the scene, who printed out that paper, who did all the artwork, and really get to the bottom of that. It's like,
that's the kind of stuff. We talk about all kinds of stuff that skeptics would just sort of scoff at or laugh at, but when we bring something up like that, they have to they scratch their head. They're like, what in the world? How could this sort of Messiah Neo figure, who is representative of unplugging the mass consciousness from this false reality, have a passport that signifies a real event that has yet to happen, that is doing the same thing that the movie is stating? Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's basically what the human race is doing right now with projects like CERN, in culmination with the approach of the cosmic nexus and the alignment with the holographic center or galactic center. It's the main galactic hub of photonic energy. So it's basically the organization of light that's going to give us a glimpse of the creator gods above and the creator gods within, and completely renew our conscious path, the conscious path of our species. It's going to rattle the very soul of the omniverse to its core, and every living sentient being on it, or in it, or with it. And tying the synchronistic slant to the whole phenomenon, Jake just recently put up an excellent quote over at his site, The Blob, that sums up why we might be seeing these shifting patterns in reality through such seemingly random thought forms as the motion picture industry. So I'll read it for you. It's a quote on his site. It says, movie stars are as below resonators of the skies above. Their earthly movements through